This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines. Your media police post coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya, from the Photo School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning. But we also take a look at some of the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 6th of April, 2022, and I am 2M.
I am CS.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines this morning, here they are. In the Daily Nation, RUTO versus State. In the Standard, painful budget. In the Star, inside ugly Uhuru RUTO silent battles. And in the People Daily, returning officers row jolts IEBC. Kick us off, CS.
Yesterday, on the floor of the Senate, Senator James Orengo made a bold assertion. He invoked the spirit of prophecy to predict that if he had any doubts in the past, now he has no doubt that William Ruto will never be president of Kenya.
I'm glad that the signs are there written on the wall, that that particular individual will never be the president of the Republic of Kenya. It is written out. There's a time when I had doubts, but now I have no doubts. No doubts at all. And I've made many predictions before, which have come right. But this one, I am sure as the sun rises in the morning, that he shall never be the president of the Republic of Kenya. Because those who serve the country must offer solutions.
And the church said amen. A major part of the reason he said this is because of the puzzling irony of having a deputy president clothed with immense executive power donated by our laws and the Constitution, who instead of using these donated powers to good effect, he chooses to earnestly join the ranks of powerless protesters, heckling every effort of government like a frustrated spectator, and yet by design he is supposed to be a striker. This despicable contradiction was also highlighted by CS Peter Munya in response to William Ruto castigating his own government for announcing a 5.7 billion subsidy program to subsidize the price of fertilizer for farmers. This subsidy effectively more than halved the cost of fertilizer as an essential farm input. Ruto, however, spared no effort in ridiculing the effort by the Ministry of Agriculture. In response, CS Munya took a moment to remind the Deputy President that he, Peter Munya, is William Ruto's minister. And therefore, it is the Deputy President who should be instructing the CS on what to do. And if the DP had better ideas than the ones which had been tabled, he should have shared them in cabinet. Unfortunately, the DP hasn't even been attending cabinet meetings, which is the appropriate forum for a state officer of his rank to have such issues addressed. It is therefore ill-advised for the DP to try, purport or pretend to run government from the roadside.
Deputy President wa nchi ananiuliza maswali ya mbolea. Angekuwa akinieleza nifanye namna gani kama waziri wake. Tunaelewana? Serikali hufanya kazi namna hiyo. Wewe ni Deputy President. Mimi ni minister kwa wizara. Nani anahitaji kuambia mwingine? Nani? Nani anahitaji kuambia mwingine? Sasa tutachukua habari yake kutoka kwa barabara kweli? Hapana, hapana. Things don't work like that. Angekuwa kule kwa mkutano tulisungumzia hiyo angetuambia. Sasa yeye hakuangi mikutano ya serikali, hako kule nje kwa mikutano yake. Hiyo habari yake itatufikia kwa barabara. Yeye ni naibu wa rais. Mikutano kama inafanywa ya kushughulikia hii mambo, awe hapo. Kama ana idea ya kusaidia ambayo ni better than ile tumetumia, anaongezea hapo.
But we would also like to humbly ask CS Peter Munya to go a little easy on the Deputy President, because the DP is simply trying his best to emulate his idol, the late President Moi, who used to make roadside declarations at a time when ministers used to listen to KBC radio with a notebook and a pen in hand to know what government policy on certain issues was. And sometimes even to find out if they still had a job. In the Moi School of Politics, Ruto is index number 1. So when he stands on top of expensive Prados and Land Cruisers and tells off government ministers, we need to remember that for Ruto, as a student of Moi, These are like biochem practicals. William Ruto is simply being the good student who is invited to the staff room to have tea and kaimati with his teacher.
Yes.
Be that as it may, the irony of Ruto calling out CS Munya for the 5.7 billion shilling subsidy is that when Ruto was Minister for Agriculture in September of 2008, he also announced a 5.4 billion subsidy to stabilize the price of fertilizer. The English-speaking peoples have a word for this.
Yes.
It is called hypocrisy.
Yes.
Yep.
But Ruto knows what he is doing.
Yeah.
And he's very deliberate in his design.
Yeah.
He's adamant in his effort to depict himself as a long-awaited liberator. Contradictions notwithstanding.
Yes.
The English also have a word for this.
Yes.
It is called hubris.
Yes.
And it is an essential ingredient for cultivating a cult of personality. For the avoidance of doubt, William Ruto's cult of personality is agenda item number 1 through 10 of his manifesto. And this is why Senator Orengo also called out Ruto, because in the last 4 years, Ruto abdicated all his constitutional duties, and the only thing he has been selling and peddling is himself.
You cannot have a country in which the deputy president in the Republic of Kenya, in that high office, with the executive powers, there are powers which are allocated to that office that are outside the powers of the president, direct, including powers in IBEC. He's the only person under the law that is required to chair that institution. But now, if for 4 years you are just talking about yourself, in fact, he's not even talking about how to make Kenya great, it's just about himself throughout, how he needs to be president. It's like, somebody talking about going to heaven without going to church.
Himself, my goodness. What
I love
a good breakdown there.
Love
now, the election battlefield, as 2J usually tells us here at the Photo School of Government, is made up of 3 domains.
Yes.
Domain number 1 is the ground.
Yes.
The ground is the sum total of all the individuals who will show up on ballot day to vote for or against a candidate.
Correct.
But since the domain of the ground does not exist in a vacuum, it is shaped by 2 other domains.
Yes.
So, domain number 2 are the airwaves of social media. Most importantly, Twitter and Facebook. On these platforms, opinion is formed and shaped. Domain number 3 are the airwaves of mainstream media. That is the 4th estate, the 5th estate seated right here. Radio and print. That is where opinions are confirmed and accepted as truth. So, in hierarchical order, mainstream media is the most critical, followed by social media, and then ground.
Yes.
And I say so because what the nation believes depends on what the nation is told.
Yes.
Correct.
And who does the telling? Who is the gatekeeper of what we think and what we believe? The gatekeeper of information is us. It is the 4th estate and the 5th estate.
Correct.
And that is why in America they say the media makes the election, not the voters.
Yes.
So in the quest for the presidency, where should Raila and Ruto lay emphasis? And who is currently in the lead in each battlefield? Let us begin with ground. How you know that you have traction on the ground as a candidate is if at the end of the day, after you have left the rally, if the locals, when they go back home or to their bars or to their churches or chamas, if they engage in debate about you vis-a-vis your opponent. And here, let's be honest, although Raila is a veteran at message in the ground, the message that's gaining more traction is that of the hustler.
Yeah.
Because it is new, it is sexy, and it promises change. As I said yesterday, it is not always right to be right.
Yes.
Baba would do well to climb down on the continuity narrative and replace it with the hustler narrative. And I say so because the multitudes are generally ignorant. What Kenyans actually need is continuity, but they are ignorant to that fact. So to outsmart them, speak their language, mirror image William Ruto. And in fact, what Raila should be telling us is that Kenyans is that Ruto actually stole the hustler narrative from him.
It's true.
So on the ground, my subjective assessment is if Raila is at a 5 out of 10, Ruto is at a 7 out of 10. Domain number 2, social media. Paulo Freire told us that there's no such thing as a neutral education. Education either functions as an instrument to bring about conformity or freedom. Similarly, there is no such thing as a neutral domain. Domains It is either ruled by the Lord of Light, also known as Elohim, the Almighty, or the Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
Now, Prince of Darkness, Simnamjua. Shaitani. Yeah. Similarly, what you see on social media is not organic. It is driven by interests. Interests that seek to sway you to one side or the other of a debate. And on this, William Ruto, I must say, subjectively, my subjective opinion here, is also leading. And Ruto is leading because his opinion shapers are doing guerrilla warfare, whereas Raila's opinion shapers are doing trench warfare. Ruto has few blows, but when he emerges, the blows are major. So on social media, if Raila is at a 6 out of 10, Ruto is at a 7 over 10. Finally, domain number 3. This is where opinion is confirmed as truth. Historically, Raila Odinga has always been the king of the Fourth Estate. This time round, the Fourth Estate seems somewhat ambivalent. Perhaps they are not being sufficiently managed and guided by Tinga. On mainstream media, I would give Raila and Ruto a 5 out of 10.
Yes.
They've tied it there.
Yes.
In sum, what am I saying? 2 things. 1, Raila is the underdog in this election.
Oh.
Raila is the David in this election.
I see you
And
now.
Ruto the Goliath.
Yes.
And that's not a bad thing.
I see.
In fact, we want to encourage
Yeah.
that perception.
Yes.
Number 2,
Okay.
all Baba needs to do to win this election is take back control of the media.
Yes.
If you can manipulate the media,
Yes.
you manipulate the nation.
I
It's
love
as simple
it.
as that.
I did not see the flip. I was like, oh, wow. It's all about the David versus Goliath thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Today we want to ask Kenyans to remove themselves from the August election for a bit and see Kenya as a plan on a canvas. When you look at Kenya all the way from independence to now, you will realize that Kenya is a work in progress. And for it to be a work in progress, it is because there was always a plan right from the start.
Right.
In the 60s, we had sessional paper number 10 on African socialism and its application to planning in Kenya, written by Mwai Kibaki, T.J. Mboya, and Japheth Shamala. That took us through the 60s and 70s. And in the 15 years Jomo, in the 15 years of Jomo, sessional paper number 10 made Kenya $5 billion richer. Enter Moi. He came up with some ambiguous thing for Africans. He called it Nyayo. In Moi's 24 years, he added only $8 billion to Kenya's wealth. Those were Kenya's worst economic years. Anyway, enter Kibaki. Kibaki's plan was known as the ERSP, the Economic Recovery Strategic Plan for Wealth Creation. And second was Vision 2030. In Kibaki's 10 years, he made Kenya $32 billion richer. Lastly, enter Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru took up Vision 2030 and achieved it in 9 years, and not the 17 years it would have taken. And not only that, he has doubled the road network the colonizers, Jomo, Moi, and Kibaki built in 120 years in just 9 years. In 9 years, Uhuru is the first African leader to have built a new seaport. And guess what? By the time he retires in August, he will have made Kenya $90 billion richer. This actually means Uhuru has built Ethiopia's GDP on top of Kenya's. It also means in just 9 years, Uhuru has doubled the wealth the colonizers, Jomo, Moi, Kibaki built in 120 years.
And then some.
Absolutely. But what's my point here? Every time Kenya had a well-defined plan, we grew wealthier. Vision 2030, ERSP, sessional paper number 10, those were well-defined plans. They were progressive. They were built on gains of previous regimes. Yes, we made mistakes here and there, but we still made progress. But when you hear unclear, haphazard, ad hoc, backward philosophies like bottoms up, remember the Nyayo philosophy, an ambiguous philosophy that made Kenya stagnate. There's not a single country in the world that has had a long-term economic plan called bottoms up. Bottoms up is only for Kikuyus. It is meant for those short of memory, devoid of thought, and of mediocre reasoning. The only man with a plan is Raila. And that plan is called Vision 2063. It builds on the principle of administrative continuity and the legacy Uhuru Kenyatta will leave. August 22 is more than just an election. It is the moment You will decide whether Kenya will be Africa's third largest economy or a country of mamambogas.
Wow, wow, wow. Now, we have a three-part criteria that we use to assess the headlines: topical, speculative, repetitive, groundbreaking, thoughtful, just plain lazy. I'm gravitating towards Daily Nation, RUTO versus State.
I could not agree more.
Yeah? Okay, so the Daily Nation then will give us our winning headline and onto the cartoons. Shall we look at 2M, the Daily Nation?
Daily Nation, you have a caricature of President Uhuru Kenyatta at the office of the president, at the door labeled office of the president. And right next to him is caricature of William Ruto, also at the office of the president. Then you have Ruto leaving his office, going to address the public, castigating government, the same government that he works for. He goes to the podium and castigates the same government about the fuel crisis. What did you tell him again, CS?
About him never being president, or about him being a hypocrite, or about his hubris?
I think you've said everything.
All of those, all the above, all the above.
I could not agree more with that cartoon.
Yeah. Okay, great. Now, the Standard.
Yeah, so we have a caricature of Putin in the Kremlin with his legs on his desk, and he is saying that after Ukraine will take on Poland, then Yugoslavia, it will just be like good old days, comrade. And it's not clear who he's talking to on the other end of the line, but we can assume that this is probably either Hitler, who also took a similar approach, you know, with Lebensraum, living space, Poland and the like, or it could be talking to
let me ask, why these portraits of who are these ladies on this side?
His
Ricardo, my goodness. Surely speaking. Okay. Let's look at the Star. This cartoon here is a car labeled economy. It has been sunk into a grave that is called fuel crisis.
Yes.
Standing on the roof of the car are three individuals.
Yes.
The oil marketeers, Wajiko, and government.
Yeah.
And they're all pointing at each other.
It's a blame game.
It's a blame game, and they're all accusing each other of this fuel crisis. Terrible
cartoon, man.
Yeah, it's dry. It's plain lazy, not effective. So toss that one. What do you think of the Putin one?
I think we throw that one as well.
Throw that one as well. So our winning cartoon goes to the Daily Nation. Our winning headline also goes to the Daily Nation. Don't forget to subscribe to our TV channel, to our YouTube channel. You'll find me on TikTok at Mainawa Kagema.
Twitter at Chaka Sichangi.
Twitter at K Minor, and TikTok Kanda Bongo.
Have a good evening.